Sorry, I'm muted. I think you're muted, Lynette. Are you muted? I can't hear you, Lynette. I can't hear you, Lynette.
Okay, I was
Oh,
just
there
saying,
you are. Now I can hear you.
okay, my script, it just kicked me out and relaunched me. I'm like,
Okay, if you click on that green share button again, does it give you the option to find Canva now?
um, it does not.
All right. Well, I would just say, you can see it. Just go through your slideshow and
Yeah,
just.
I'll just go through, just answer questions, and that can kind of prompt what I was going to talk about anyway. So
Yeah, we'll do that for now.
I think we lost somebody though with all the shenanigans going.
I am so sorry. Maybe they'll pop back on.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on, but we can figure it out for next time, hopefully.
I'm so sorry, Lynette. We'll
No, I'm sorry. I just don't know like what
it's just
happened.
hard to tell if it's Zoom or what what the issue is. All right. Well, I'm gonna so everybody's waiting. I'll just let you go ahead and start talking,
Okay.
and I'm gonna pop off here, and I'll check in with you afterwards.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Christy.
All right. Bye now.
So I think someone was talking when it kicked me off. I don't know if it was Mark, Deborah, or Brian. Can you guys unmute yourselves and we can have more of a discussion forum?
Wasn't Brian.
Okay.
But I did get booted out.
Yeah, me too. Something's definitely going on. So Christine, I tried this earlier and my presentation was there and now it's not. So I don't know what's going on with that. So basically I was just talking about, I don't know what you guys specifically have questions on or what interested you to join. So we can just talk about, since there's only you three and me, any specific questions or that you were hoping to get answered.
Well, it sounds like it was already on the right track for my interest, which is contractors. Well, that's been one of my main concerns in my area. I've had a difficult time finding good, reliable contractors just to do my personal residential work. So I'm certainly concerned when it comes to doing investment flips.
Right.
I have one crew that I've found that I can get certain things done, but they're not licensed, so I can't get anything from them that will involve pulling permits or anything like that. So I can't look forward to using them very much.
Right. I get that. And that is a frustration, a concern with my investors around here and myself as well, because unless you have steady work for them, they're taking other jobs.
Yeah, definitely.
And they're sometimes definitely unreliable. And especially right now, because they're in such high demand, they feel like they can kind of take or leave jobs and not necessarily.
Oh yeah. I've heard the nightmares about the triple booking jobs. They're supposed to be working on your job and they're trying to juggle several jobs. I've heard some of the cautions about when you're paying them and not to give too much money up front because you won't see that money or the work.
You won't see that. Right. That is definitely true.
Yeah.
So I think like the best way for me too has been the Facebook groups in my area.
Yeah.
And the local, just the local hardware stores or the big box stores or like I said, my local tile shops.
Okay.
And then, if you talk to them about, I don't know, like what are your plans for study? Are you looking for a flip right now? Are you doing buy and holds? Like
I'm looking for some deals. That's for sure. I mean, right before I got on here, I was looking at one that needs some work that I would love to do. I would love to take on, but that's not the only. That's not my primary strategy, the flips or the buy and holds, but I do want them uh, as part of my repertoire.
Yeah, and I am the same way. That's what I'm doing myself. I'm trying to identify some properties right now. But that is a concern for me as well. Like, you don't want to be holding these properties for any longer than you have to. And you certainly don't want to be waiting on contractors because the clock's ticking and you're spending money. So
Yeah.
I would definitely try to get those people in, start interviewing people right now,
Okay.
find out when they have availability, find out when they have openings, find out like, you can kind of find their sweet spot too, find out, when they're available to work. Is this their full-time thing? How much they're charging, if they know about anybody to the trade. Also, sometimes real estate agents in your area will have contractors in their back pocket for, if anything goes awry with inspections, they have someone that can do the repairs. Like, I met one of my local contractors that I've been using from an apartment complex where he does all of their maintenance as well, but he's a contractor. So there's different ways to flush them out, and then you really have to just wine them and dine them and just
Yeah.
make it worth their while, for sure. And then the more steady you get, the more jobs the more business you can give them, the more committed they're going to be to you. And I don't know, where are you located,
I'm
Brian?
in Maryland and DC.
Okay. So one thing, and I don't know what Deborah and Mark are where their interests lie, but one thing that I've been learning about and that my focus is definitely going to be on is flipping townhomes and condos,
Okay.
because you don't have to worry about the exterior, and they're really easy to comp because you can look within that condominium complex and find out what the top dollar is, and there's no guessing. Even though I'm a real estate agent and I know how to do comps, it still takes the guesswork out of it for me, because I can see, okay, the absolute top dollar condo in here sold for 250.
Yeah.
So I know that that's my top, so that and then I know what I can get this place for, and then I know what I can spend. So you're not dealing with roofs, siding, windows, foundations, anything like that, any of the big ticket things. You're just dealing with, and so the 80s and 90s is a sweet spot, because those are the ones that just need a little bit of lipstick right now. Maybe, they just need to be updated to be appealing.
Yeah.
So we're going in and painting cabinets, or, replacing cabinets depending on, the condition of them. Laminate flooring throughout, new light fixtures, new paint, new bathroom faucets, bathroom hardware, bathroom plumbing, and they look like $1 million. And then what your end price is going to be, because what your competition is, because it's easy to see.
Yeah.
So, and those, my point about that too, is those you can flip very quickly, because there's not as much that goes into them. So if you can, how I'm trying to identify those right now, does that interest you at all?
Well, the one thing that concerns me about it, and it's not because I've heard a whole lot about it, except maybe if I hear from Robert Kiyosaki or someone, but the concerns that I have are uh, HOAs and the condo associations, and whether or not that will cause any friction or not.
So it shouldn't, because your end buyer is still the same. Your end buyer is interested in the condo, so they're not afraid of HOAs. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, when it's finished, when it's listed, those people are going to be looking for condos, and they're going to be expecting an HOA.
Right.
And you, as a buyer, so you're buying that property and you're improving that property, and that's not frowned upon by HOAs, and you're not doing anything to the exterior. So it's, does that answer your question about that?
It can. I mean, I've just heard that there are some particulars about how things are done with properties. I mean, I know a gentleman, for instance, who was was given a citation over his drapes that were hanging. I mean, plants being, what kind of plants were put in on the exterior, that kind of thing. Oh, I mean, I've heard a lot of nightmares from people who live in those areas. So the concern is, wow, what will I face if I'm doing any in the process of doing any changes? I mean, even in during the process of making changes, I wonder if I'll have an issue with the times of day that I can even work in uh areas like that. I mean, because there, I mean, in this area at least, there is a lot of sensitivity about work vehicles in
Oh,
those
yeah.
kind of areas. I mean,
Yeah.
they can't stand it. I mean, they really, it's just trucks are frowned upon, lettered
Yeah.
vehicles are frowned upon. So
Yeah.
yeah, I've I've heard all kinds of issues. And like I said, there are a few investors, a lot of the bigger investors. The one that comes to mind the most, like I said, is Robert Kiyosaki,
Yeah.
who can go on and on about how much he hates them and everything.
Yeah, yes, yes, yes. So I would say right now, what I have my acquisitions manager doing for me is she is looking up, condos that have sold for around 200,000,
Yeah,
and then identifying that complex.
yeah,
And then we are sending out, letters to everybody in that complex, finding out if anybody's a motivated seller. So
okay,
what you could do, is you could contact the HOA or the head of the HOA and find out what their policies and restrictions are on renovating a property, tell them what you're going to be doing, and
sure,
just find that out ahead of time.
right, yeah,
And then I would do that for, before you even send out letters, because you might find that they are very strict on those kinds of things and you don't really want to deal with them and move on to another one. I mean, there's plenty
yeah. That's
of,
a good idea. Yeah,
yeah, that way you're not, going into it blindly.
exactly. All right.
That's definitely a good way to get in and out of a space of a place quickly, and keep your contractors busy, because you're not taking, such a long time for each flip.
Right.
Yeah.
Understood.
Yeah. Mark, do you have a question? Are you unmuted?
Yeah, I just wanted to listen to your points, and I wanted to chime in. I said that's pretty interesting because I used to look at a lot of rehab properties in the past,
Mhm.
and I was always not really wanting to go through all the hassles, the permitting, the contractors, and so on. I'm very handy, so I could probably do everything that you're talking about in condos and townhomes
Oh, wow.
because what your points are so amazingly great because you don't have to go through all the permitting. You're
Right.
you're not really doing rehab. You're
No, you're
doing
putting some live.
remodel.
Yeah, you're updating the interior.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's absolutely where I like to be. If I'm doing the work, I like to be on the side of not having to worry about all the overload of do I have to be down there and watch everybody if they're doing the work and all that, and there's time involved. But that is a good view. So my question to you would be, I don't know your condo and townhouse market, but here in Atlanta, I'm in the Atlanta area, north of the metro Atlanta.
Sure.
There's so much, but my concern would be the first thing that starts to deteriorate quickly in value are condos here, condos and
Oh,
townhouses. So,
okay.
so if the market starts to shift because of the moratorium, loosening up and foreclosure starting to really take place,
Right.
that's where I would be, very cautious in this market. I don't know how it is in your market. Now in the Florida market, on the coastal market, it's a different story.
Yeah.
They're very lucrative.
Yeah. And I suppose it depends on how far you're willing to travel as well. But I would tell you, are you are you a real estate agent or investor, or just just do you have
Well, I stepped away for a while. I was doing rentals and I was in the pretty home market, so I would spend no more than $10,000 on I was primarily in four 2.5 type, 4 bedroom, 2.5 bath type homes.
Okay.
And I would just go in, buy those, do no more than $10,000, get them up and running within a month, and I'd be renting already.
Yeah,
I kind
that's a
of
sweet
I
spot
kind of
for
phased
sure.
out.
Yeah.
I phased out of it back in 16, and I was doing other things, and I kind of took a back seat and started watching to see what was really going to happen, and then the market still continued to take off.
Yeah.
So I just been really not producing on my side. So now is the time where I'm finished with the stuff that I'm working on here in my own property, because right now I'm in my very first property that I acquired in 2004. It's
Wow.
my last rental, so I moved into it like I do with my other ones. I moved into them, took advantage of the tax benefits,
Yep.
and then moved into the next one, and then so on and so on. So I'm in my last rental, which was my first acquisition, and this
Okay.
house needed pretty much a major lift in every area. So, now I'm kind of out of the picture doing that. I got to move to start producing income, because I've been living
Yeah.
off the income I made from the other houses. It's
Right.
just not healthy anymore.
Right. Yeah, I know. It gets to that point, right? So, what I can tell you, the reason I asked it, well, you have access to a lot of the same agents or information that us agents do. But what you can find out is kind of the demand for townhomes and condos in whatever specific area you're looking at. Like for our MLS, I can go in and I can search specifically for condos, and I can tell how many days on market, if that they're sitting, if they're going over asking or at asking or below. Right now in our market, homes are selling for about anywhere from 12 to 20% over asking price, and that is including condos and townhomes. And so and then we kind of have a formula. If they've sat for 15 days on the market, then you can come in under asking. If it's just kind of like you get closer to the asking price, the longer they sit on the market.
Mm.
So you can check or have a real estate agent, that you could find that would work with you and just tell you and identify those hot pockets or those hot areas where condos and townhomes are sought after. And I know a few in my area where as soon as they come on the market, they're gone. So, focusing more on those areas, but you'll also be able to see a trend. Like if your agent sees that condos and townhomes in your specific area are sitting on the market for, days and days, 45 days, 65 days, and they're, taking price cuts and things like that, then yeah, it's not wise. But if they're following the same trend like they are around here as homes, and going quickly and going for over asking and things like that, then I think you're definitely safe. And so like I said, the one thing that you're trying to do though is flesh out the motivated seller before any of those properties hit the market or would even consider hitting the market. And with condos and townhomes, what's nice about those too is sometimes they're someone's last step before a retirement community. So you're getting those people. I'm finding that there are condos and townhomes that are in a trust because that was the homeowner's last place to stop, and they passed on. Or a lot of times it's like in my situation, I'm in a condo right now. I'm a single mom. So if my situation were to change, I would be moving out as well. So you just don't know, those are the people that you're trying to flesh out, are the people who are motivated potentially to sell, or going to be making a move in the future. And then, you're hopefully can strike a deal with them.
Right, right. Well, I I haven't been able to work on something that I did in the past because of the moratorium and all the federal, relief that's been given to a lot of people that are in forbearance.
Yep.
But I do pull bankruptcy data, and I specifically look at Chapter 13 specifically.
Sure.
So I'm very familiar with that. So that's just, it's the same animal as a pre-foreclosure. It's just a pre-foreclosure for me,
Right.
because I get a little bit of a head start if I'm going to work
Right.
with people. I also have access to PropStream. So I don't know how PropStream is in sync with MLS. That I don't know how up to date it would be to do that kind of analysis. So I may have to lean to a friend agent that I know.
So I signed up for PropStream for a while just to see, and I found that they were pretty accurate because in comparing them to the MLS. You know, they might have been lagging by maybe 72 hours at the most, but I mean, just play with it and see. And then, you know, maybe cross-reference it, you know, any properties that you find with your agent friend and see how, you know, live time those are. But I found it to be very helpful. And you can search, you know, by specific areas that you identify, a condominium complex, townhome complex, that area, and you can search it and then get everybody's information.
Right.
I would be willing to share the letter that I have created, you know, to that I send, unless you all have your own, that I send out to sellers, potential sellers. But
So is
yeah,
that tailored specifically for the condo market, or that's just a general
so
letter?
it's not, I thought about that, and I still, you know, depending on how my response rate is, but so I have pretty excuse me, my allergies are terrible here. It's like 56 degrees out here today in Michigan, and it's great here, and my allergies are in full swing. But they I found, like, I was sending out letters to rental non-owner occupied homes with a mortgage. So I was trying to flush out, this is not for condos and townhomes. This is just for looking for motivated sellers for my investors, or, you know, homes for my investors to either renovate to buy and hold, short-term rentals, or flips. And so for PropStream too, one of the great ways to flush people out that are motivated is a non-owner occupied with a mortgage, because, you know, that's sitting empty and they're paying their bills, right? They're paying that monthly mortgage. So I
Yep.
did have a gentleman call me, but he's like, you know what? I have some renters going into mine, but I want to sell my personal home because the market's so hot. So, you know, you don't know what you could potentially flush out with your letter to even just one person,
Right.
if it's more generic.
And going back to a comment you made about days on market where, you know, they're overpaying right now. Barbara Corcoran actually made a comment about that people have like a serious high anxiety, that if they're in fear that if they don't bid higher, they won't get the property, and they don't want to go higher because they know that they're overpaying. So there's like this whole gigantic anxiety going on in the real estate market, that they're fearful if any correction takes place that they're stuck with overpaying now.
Going to be upside down.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I am
But
living
because the
that.
inventory is so low,
Right.
that's the reason. And now that everybody's shifting gears and moving to other states and flocking over here to the Southeast as well, because of remote capabilities, that's changed a lot.
You know, in my area in Grand Rapids, it's ranked the 5th most popular place to move in the United States. So we're really feeling a crunch here. And actually, our top 5, and I know there's more, but our top 5 builder companies that build the masses in our area have halted all new home sales because they just can't keep up, for one thing. And then they cannot guarantee pricing because the cost of materials is so high and so unpredictable. So, you know, they can't tell these people we're going to finish in 6 months, or we're going to finish in 8 months or a year, because they are also at the mercy of contractors and getting their materials in a timely manner and for a decent price. So that's, you know, that's even on a little bit of a hold here because it's so crazy. So I currently have 12 active buyers, and that is their fear. And I just wrote an offer before I got on here, $130,000 home. We wrote an offer for $175,000. But what I will tell you is happening in this area, and it might be in your area as well, is agents are underpricing homes, pricing them at fair market value at best, and working backwards from there to get more buyers into these homes, more buyers through these homes to bid against each other and bid the price up. So what I'm hearing and what
Well,
I'm,
it just happened to me because I went over to look at a property and all they were trying to do was create like best and final, your
highest
best
and best.
offer.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it's frustrating because when I list my properties for my sellers, I list them at fair market value and I let the market naturally bid it where it should be. Whether, and the market always speaks. The market always speaks. If you overprice something, you're going to sit on it. If you underprice it, it's going to be bid up. I mean, that is just how it is. So you get these people. So this particular agent, this was a rental home for him, and he had it for 2 years, renovated the interior, and threw it on the market for 130,000. And so I called him. So I do my due diligence and call all my buyers, any property that they're interested in. I call them before I get anybody's hopes up. Like, realistically, what are these buyers or what are these sellers wanting to get for their home? Like, let's just not play games here. Where do they want to land? And so he flat out told me, I priced it way too low. I'm expecting it to go somewhere closer to 200. So then I always ask, at what point do you think that we would get into trouble with an appraisal? Because you can offer what you want all day long, but if your lender comes back and says, listen, it didn't appraise for that, you're back at the negotiating table, and nobody likes that.
Yeah,
So
that is a good point.
yeah. So the other thing that we're seeing going on right now is people are waiving inspections. People, if they have more than 50% or more down, you can waive your appraisal, because if you have more than 50% down, the underwriters can just go in and see what your assessed value is, double it. And if it's under half, then they're waiving appraisals. And then writing stupid amounts of appraisal gaps. I work with an agent who does 100% appraisal gap guarantee every time. So she just says to her buyers, you know what? If you want this price home, we're going to have to look at this price, so you can write an appraisal gap up to that price. So you can't go in, if you're approved for 175,000, you can't be looking at 160, 165, 70, $75,000 houses. So that's my buyer's top number was 175 for this particular house. So I just said to them, we're going to have to be looking between 125 and 150 to even be competitive. And my point was proven today. So, and they're going to get it. So he knew. So a lot of times, if you ask the seller or ask your agent to ask the seller's agent, at what point do you think we will get into trouble with appraisal? A lot of times they will tell you what number they're looking for without even knowing it. They'll be like, well, I think, it would appraise up to 180 or 185 without a problem. So, they've already done their homework, and they know after that point, they're looking for appraisal guarantees because they know it's not going to appraise beyond that. So, so like a lot of times, I'm writing the most a $5,000 or $10,000 appraisal guarantee, because I just don't want, if my buyer's lender is saying, this is all this home is worth, unless I look at that appraisal and I can pick it apart and see where they've missed some things, then we'll go back and we'll challenge the appraisal. But if it's spot on and I agree with it, I don't let my buyers, go more than 10,000 over, because I don't want them to be upside down when the market does shift.
When you refer to your buyers, are you talking about your end retail buyer, or is it an investor buyer?
So either or, but right now my investors are just holding out for my off-market properties that I might be able to flesh out. They're not buying retail because it's stupid.
Right.
You just can't make any money right now.
I'm even surprised that the banks are not taking a stance and not budging. I'm really shocked that they're still allowing to go over 10, 15, 20% over asking price.
So I will tell you,
and it's over the market.
Yeah. So part of what's happening with that, the reputable banks, and I should say banks, I can't speak for the little guys, the one-offs or whatever, but some of the larger banks that I'm dealing with, their underwriters are pushing back. They're pushing back on the appraisers. So if the appraisers are coming in at value on something and it's way over asking, they are challenging the appraisers to prove the value to them. And so I have a friend who her family owns an appraisal business. She has been in the business 25 years. And she said she has never had to prove her numbers more ever in her life, like she's having to sell everybody on her final numbers, because they are pushing back a little bit, because nobody wants to be in trouble and upside down, so we are seeing a little bit more of that. But again, people are finding money. People are borrowing money from private money lenders, from family members, to be able to offer cash to win these deals. And then they're getting mortgages afterwards and paying those back is another strategy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, just a step aside from that, going back to your rehab business, since you've done rehabbing, are you pulling your own permits? And how long is it taking for your process to get permits when you're doing like full blown rehab?
So I've worked with investors who have someone to the trade, and each trade does that and pulls their permits and everything's done, like that. I would say those jobs probably take 4 to 6 months. But I also have people like you who come in and do the work themselves, and they're doing it after hours, weekends, in between their jobs, only calling in to the trade or professionals for like electrical or plumbing or things like that.
Right.
And
Liability.
right. Well, that, and if you get an FHA or a VA buyer, government backed loan buyer, and some Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac backed loans too, when you get into a renovated home, they want to see permits and they want to see receipts from licensed contractors.
Yeah, but it makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Yeah, I could do a lot of work, but I don't put myself in that kind of an arena where I'm going to try to undercut and I'm going to say I'm going to do the work and not. If it's really a requirement, I've even turned down work with other investors saying, no, I'm not going to do it because you need a licensed guy here because it's a risk, it's a liability, and they'll come after me. Let them go after the electrician, not me.
Right. Right. It's definitely worth the little bit of extra that you might pay them, for their expertise and their specialty. And if it's going to take a little bit more time to wait than a real estate related lawsuit down the road, nobody wants that.
Yeah.
And
I'll do the cosmetics, the kitchen renovation, all that kind of stuff, bathroom, but I'm getting to a point too where I can't really do the work the way I used to do it, just based on my body's telling me, one thing, my mind says one thing, and I can't challenge my body anymore. So I'm going to have to lean. I'm going to be too slow. Certain things I could do, with no problem. But when it comes to like kitchen cabinets, there's skill involved. It takes time. If I went through my own, and it's a challenge, so there's time involved. So
yeah. And the aesthetics like tile, flooring, cabinets, all that stuff, nobody's going to bark up your tree if it's crooked or if it's not quite. I'm talking about electrical, plumbing, things like that, where any HVAC, things like that, where you need to be to the trade to, but the other stuff. And, I don't know, like in your area, but there are some contractors around here that are kind of getting ready to retire, that their sons have been helping out, learning. And, I don't know if there's anything like that in your area where you could hire like college kids or, someone who knows a little bit about that, or that you could direct that can actually do the physical labor, but you could kind of guide them, or, they're kind of getting into that, taking over for a parent.
It's hard. The new generation, it's even with myself when I was growing up, I didn't really want to work hard.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to work hard anymore. Everybody wants to be.
Boy, isn't that the truth? I have girls that are.
The trades are hurting. The trades are hurting now. But there's a lot of people, there's still people that'll go and do the carpentry and the electrical and so on. But it's getting to a point now, like if I look around for that, it's just too much time looking.
The other thing that I just thought of right across from my gym, and I might look into this too, is it's interesting. They do like renovations for like apartment buildings and things like that. And so, I don't know, I gotta think of the name of that place, but if you went and looked like commercial, um, you know, um, for like when they go in and when they tenant turnover, they go in and they paint and they pull up carpet and they do repairs and stuff like that. I wonder if, any of the people that work at those places would do side jobs.
Yeah, yeah. I've
I-
talked to a bunch of handyman when I go to Home Depot because I'm there pretty often. I know a lot of people at the store and they know me. But one of the things that the other gentleman mentioned too is that, he was trying to do it for his own place that he's had a hard time. I don't know how many times I've gone and I've talked directly right to the guys, talk to them, hey, I've got some tile work to do. Can you do the tile? Some of them are booked out 2-3 months.
Yeah,
So that is also another issue, is that you may want to do the work, but they're busy.
I know.
And some of the work that I've asked for, the handyman work, even outside, they won't come. They say they're going to come, but they don't. It's because the job isn't big enough.
Right.
They want big work to get more money, and if it's a small job, they won't go.
Right. And I see that too. And so I would say, like, for me personally, to invest or to get into, if I get a lead on a place, I'm going to try, before I commit to that, I'm going to try and secure my contractors up front before I'm sitting with, the clock
Yep.
ticking and money going out the window, trying to get people to get over there and work on it. Talk about high stress situation.
Well, one of the things that I wanted to mention, because I belong to a REIA, so I have a local REIA here. They're great.
Yeah, we just,
And what I do is I go to their on-site meetings, and that's where you meet the contractors too, to see the type of work, because you want to see the work. You don't just want to rely on somebody saying, "Yeah, I'll come and bid on a job."
right.
You want to go see the work, and I can see what's good and bad because I have a trained eye for that.
Yes.
So
That
I
is
can
so
tell.
important. Yes, you are absolutely right. So like the big box stores too, like I said, they are not going to keep those people on if they're getting complaints for the referrals that they're giving out. But yeah, you should definitely, excuse me, be able to go and see some of their work, or they should have photos or a Facebook page or a website or whatever of some of their jobs.
Well, the
Because
other gentleman mentioned too that we, he needed help with that. And I would say, as soon as you see a rehab in progress, go over there.
yes,
Go talk to them. Just say, hi, I'm looking to do some of this work, or, what's your schedule like? And then get a chance to see their work while you're there. So I'm pretty sure if you go into like active rehab areas, you can start mingling with them. But that's why I go to the on-site rehabs, so that I can actually see that I can talk to the rehabbers. I've got a couple of people that I can also ping, and I say, look, I'm doing a water pressure test here, and I'm a little bit confused because every county has a different rule for doing a water
Right.
pressure test.
yes,
So then I get a chance to talk to one of their guys, and he tells me, yeah, you can do that. Oh, if you did it for 2 hours and it didn't, open up on you, you're fine. So
yeah,
everybody has a whole little different game that they play with the county. So every county where we are is completely different.
yep. Yes, no, and I agree with that. And I also have a local, it's an RPOA is what it's called here, but it's the same thing. And you can definitely, I mean, every area has their own. So you can definitely find people to the trade from those places as well. And we have those. So that's another good place for sure to find good help. And also just to brainstorm, like what you were saying about the testing.
Yeah, I had so many mixed results with YouTube University. So I was like, holy cow, I have to talk to somebody in my area, because some of these YouTubes are not Georgia. They're other states. So you
Mhm.
can't rely on that only.
Right. You're right.
But
Yeah.
I do ping people, and I do talk to some of the contractors that I've met, so I can get at least an idea. Some of the things I really don't know.
Yeah.
And I gained like, boy, I installed PEX into the house. So I've never worked with PEX. I've always worked with copper and CPVC. And I found CPVC to be easier to work with than anything else because you don't have to do any sweating with copper.
Right. Yep.
But with the downside with CPVC is a lot of people won't know this if they've never worked with it, is you got to wait 2 hours for glue time to set up.
Oh,
You
yeah.
can't put the pressure on. So even something that simple, is a big thing. Now with PEX, it's so much easier to work with, and there is no downtime. It's immediate. So you can turn the pressure on right away. That's why PEX is really widely used now. I don't know in Michigan, but here it is.
See, that's the stuff I don't get into that. I mean, when I work with my investors or even for myself, I focus, like, I have the design piece so I manage the projects because I've built several new homes and I've been in new home construction and renovations for 20 years. So I can manage the project and know who needs to follow who and who's coming in next and what that process looks like. But I don't get into the nitty gritty about like what you were just talking about.
Right.
But, as far as like, where I can help you guys
It should
too.
be cheaper. It should actually be cheaper to use PEX, because I'll tell you the truth. If you go from copper to PEX, we're not just talking material. We're talking about ease of handling, the material and working with it and how fast it can be put together. It should be cheaper. PEX should be substantially cheaper. And also in cold environments, because I'm originally from New York. So in cold environments, PEX is actually better than copper.
Okay. I don't know anything about that stuff for sure.
Yeah.
I can't.
But in terms of a rehabber, and
Yeah.
know those things, to know what materials
I
are
agree with that.
disadvantage.
Yes, I agree
It's so
with
much
that.
easier. And I'll tell you, I had to run the PEX through my house from the garage all the way across 60 feet through my first floor to get it up to the second floor level, through the ceiling. If I didn't know what I was doing, it would be a big problem. But to run PEX was dramatically, so much easier than I would have to do copper or CPVC. So there is some superior advantages of using PEX, and that's why I'm bringing it up. It's something like that is really something to know.
Yeah, no, I'm writing that down for sure. I can definitely ask about that at my RPOA meeting tomorrow. That's interesting.
And at the same time, it should be a lot cheaper, in the long run, especially with copper's gone up dramatically.
I think everything has.
Oh yeah, I was in shock with lumber.
Right?
Everyone's telling me horror stories with lumber.
Oh God, I think a 2x4 is like $18 right now.
Even
Deborah, do you have any questions?
decks.
Even what, Mark?
Even the decks, to build decks, they're planning these big decks, and then at the end they can't get the lumber, so they're building half the size that they originally planned.
Yeah, it's crazy. I'm sorry, Deborah, I saw you unmuted. Do you have a question?
No, I really don't have any questions. I was just joining in to learn. Your real estate insight has been very interesting. I'm in Durham, North Carolina.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm a buy and hold investor, relatively new into this industry. But honestly, right now, just trying to gauge what's the best next step.
Yeah, I will tell you one of the things that I would like to talk about at my next class too, is because I'm interested in getting into buy and holds, but also short-term luxury rentals. So I'm learning about something called arbitrage. Have you heard about that?
I'm doing the same. I'm actually working
Okay.
with Leilani Hawk, who was a REI investor. She was on the Badass Women's Summit.
Yes.
She lives about 15 minutes from me here in North Carolina, and I'm actually doing her Why Not Me Academy right now to understand arbitrage as well.
Oh, I would like, why not? Okay. I need to look
Why
into
Not Me
that because
Academy is her program. And yeah, I joined that because I want to enter into short-term rentals as well, and felt that was maybe a feasible way to go about it right now, since buying a property might not be
right.
easy right now as we would hope
Right.
that was.
Yeah.
At least I could learn the short-term rental aspects and get my systems in place and make sure I really enjoy that before I purchase a property. So
Yeah.
same thing.
Yeah, perfect. So I've been learning a lot about that. And one of the things that I can help with too, and with Mark, Brian, whoever, Nuri, I don't know if I'm saying your name right, but with interior selections, colors, layout, floor plans, furniture placement, places to get furniture, things like that.
Mhm.
So that was what another thing that I wanted to talk on. If you guys want to bring me, if you have a space that you want to talk about, colors and finishes and all that kind of stuff, I'm happy to help with all of that as well. When you do acquire a property, putting together some color stories and,
Right.
design boards of tile and paint and flooring and fixtures and cabinet colors and everything like that. So that's kind of what I'm hoping, that people will be bringing those projects to me as well, where I can help make those decisions, because everybody likes to think they're Chip and Joanna Gaines, but the truth of it is they're not. So I know as much fun as that is to pick all that stuff out yourself, at the end of the day, you really want a professional eye on it, because your end goal is to make money, not to necessarily, play Joanna Gaines for a day.
But I was going to ask. I was going to ask whether your approach was more artistic or commercial. I mean, out here, the grays and whites rule. I mean, that's what sells, and
Yeah.
a great deal. I mean, in DC, it's nothing for a 100-year-old house to sell for 800,000.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. So, if you guys acquire a property and want some help with, the one thing I always tell my clients do too is, look around the area, look at some things that are selling, visit some open houses, see, the demand of some of these, the types, the styles that are selling, the color stories that are selling. And then, we can come up with, a scheme for the entire renovation for that as well.
Are you noticing any trends for what's selling more so than
Oh,
I mean,
in my
some
area,
new things?
it's still very much modern farmhouse style.
Okay.
Seeing a lot of white exteriors, black windows with wood accents. Inside, it's all about solid surface flooring, whether we're doing a high-end laminate or a luxury vinyl plank. Still light colors on the walls, maybe some bolder, brighter colors in like the half baths or laundry or things like that. But for the most part, I'm still seeing the light, whites and grays and variations of beiges and things like that. Lots of black accents, white cabinets, mixing in with some woods, maybe still some grays. It just really depends. So if I can see the style of the home and get a feel for the surrounding, then I can advise accordingly to what the interior should be and what you should focus on as far as style and then staging. So Mark, I was going to tell you too, when we were talking earlier, you're looking for something, a new avenue of income. There's a gentleman here in Grand Rapids that will buy an empty home, an unfurnished home off of the MLS. He sometimes goes in and fixes some cosmetic things if it's been overlooked and, and it's something that's necessary that really would make a difference, is not that big of a deal. And then he hires a staging company, whether I do it or, another company, and puts it back on the market for $10,000 to $20,000 more and sells them. So that just goes to show how much just paying attention to detail and the importance of staging a home. And Deborah, that goes along too with what you and I are also interested in, is the high-end luxury short-term rentals. If you do them right and knock them out of the park, you're going to be the one that attracts that attention, just like these staged homes that have the right amount of lipstick on them and then they're properly staged. You're going to attract short-term renters because your place looks the best. Did I lose everybody?
I'm here.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think that's just kind of running the numbers to make that decision. If we can even, is it feasible or financially smart to buy retail right now, even if you're going to make your property be the best it can be, right? In a great location, your data on air DNA supports it, or MashVisor, or wherever you're pulling your specs. And you know you can cash flow positive. It's like that's, I think, my personal struggle, and I change my mind 5 times every day.
Yeah,
Do I
it's
need to
true.
be running numbers? Do I need to be watching what's coming on the market, or do I just give that up right now and wait a couple months? That's the
Deborah, that's hard because the entire remainder of 2021, we're still going to see home prices escalating. I mean, at least through the end of this year. And I mean, it's just the way it's trending. Like from January, I think it was, to March, home prices increased 5% nationwide on average. So we're still seeing them going up. But it's still, the golden rule applies for, buying a rental, is your bare minimum is 1% monthly income of your purchase price. So, if you can buy something right, you'll be able to rent it right. Like a 2-bedroom in my area right now rents for about 1,800, is just a basic run of the mill. And so I know that. So you're not going to pay more than 180 for that property, and hopefully less. But if you can find, another thing that I've done that you guys might want to look into to flesh out some off-market properties, is go to financial advisors. If you know any financial advisors, or just look up some financial advisors, build those relationships, go to a local BNI group. And if you get in, you can kind of just say to them, listen, if you have any landlords who are getting out of the business and starting to sell off their properties, I'm interested. Because I have had, I've built some relationships with financial advisors in my area, and they, we have some clients who are getting up there that want to start selling off their properties. And I'm like, give them my information. So there's different ways, if you start thinking outside the box to, flush out properties before they hit the market, you can come up with some pretty creative things.
I talk to leads every day. I mean, I pay a cold caller out of the Philippines to dial thousands of numbers. I do have PropStream, and come up with all kinds of lists for motivated sellers.
Yeah.
Just today, I joined the REI USA Facebook group, and it asked the question, what's one of your biggest challenges? And I said, my biggest challenge is finding people that are motivated enough that I can get a property at a discount. What I'm seeing, and I've been doing this process of having cold callers and the communications going out, and text messages. I'm going through 2 different channels. I have my own virtual assistant, and then I have a company that I pay to do cold calling, RVMs, and text messaging.
Yeah.
And still, what I come with all of these leads are people right now that want retail or more than retail for as is cash offers. So I don't know where to go with that. That even for a cash offer,
Right.
they're expecting, even in trashy conditions.
Yeah, I know.
Horrible conditions. They say, "Hey, my property is worth whatever it says on Zillow. That's how much I want. I'm not budging."
And it just, you're looking for that 5%. So you might flush out 5 buyers out of 100
Exactly.
that you talk
Yeah.
to, right?
Yeah.
So it's just catching the right person at the right time
Yeah.
with what their level of motivation is. The other one is tax liens. So you've got someone with, a high tax lien with some equity in their home. So you might want to pay them, pay out their equity, pay off their tax debt, put 10,000 in their pocket, and they're going to be happy to go out with a fresh start.
Yeah.
So it just depends. And it does take work and time, but persistence always pays off in consistency. So you just have to continue to look for your niche. And for me specifically, when I started out, I was hitting the Grand Rapids area. And so now, I mean, it's so saturated. I'm having to go to the outskirts a little bit. So for me, it looks like, and you probably don't know my area, but Muskegon, Lansing, and Kalamazoo, about an hour each way from Grand Rapids,
Okay.
because it's not as saturated.
Yeah.
Prices are a little bit less, but there's still a demand. And you can, you can Google the demand for rentals in per county, the demand, or how many people are moving into a county, and things like that, to get an idea of, like, I had an investor that had an opportunity to buy a duplex in a county that he was like, I don't know if there's even a demand for rentals down here. So we looked it up, and it turns out that the demand for rentals in that county were the same as Grand Rapids. So it's just about, finding your area and then doing your homework to make sure it's worth it.
Yeah, that's definitely what my latest considerations have been with looking for other markets.
Yeah.
or
And that's
expanding
wise.
outwards.
Yep.
I've even been doing testing on Facebook, running ads,
Yes.
getting hits.
Yes. Good.
Yeah.
Yeah. You just throw it at the wall, see what sticks, and
Yeah.
find your niche and then go with that.
Right.
Well, you guys, this has been fun. I hope it was helpful and informative, even though I couldn't show you my slides.
Try again next time.
Yeah.
Okay, good. No pressure. I hope it works next time. Then Christy's going to be like, Lynette, it's you. It's not us. All right. If anybody has any questions, feel free to reach out to me as well. So I just want to help in any way that I can.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Right.
Thanks. Have a great night.
You too. Bye-bye.